Hello, everybody out there in comic book land. My name is George Serrano, aka The Don, and if you're listening to this, you can only be here for one reason, and that's a brand new episode of the Major Issues podcast brought to you by ComicBook Clique. And as you know, I am never alone. Sir, introduce yourself.
I am your Clouded Maximus.
And we are here to review the very last film in the MCU Phase 3 slate of films, the very last film to finish the first 10 years of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Wow.
Ant-Man and the Wasp, directed by Peyton Reed, starring Paul Rudd, Michael Douglas, Evangeline Lilly, Michelle Pfeiffer,
It's been
among others.
It's been a long road.
We are at the end of the road. Before we talk about this film, how do you feel about these 10 years? These first 10 years, just a little bit about it. Obviously, we can't spend the entire podcast on it, but
I don't have enough good things to say. It's a lot of memory lane, a lot of good feels, bad feels. You know what I mean? They really made us go through it.
Yeah, it's been 10 years, and this film was important to Kevin Feige because he says that with the actual introduction of the Wasp, both Janet and Hope, we finally have the Avengers, the actual Avengers that appeared in the very first comic. They've all now appeared on screen. And it's quite fitting that this was the final film, but it was also kind of weird because of how big Infinity War was and how big that ended. And also with the juggernaut that Black Panther became and was. Great film. But I thought this film was good. I thought this was a good entry into the MCU. How did you feel about it?
I thought it was. For me personally, it was very, very campy, but very, very good campy. I only really go out to the movies to go see the Marvel joints.
Right. Yeah.
So campy, this kind of go around for campy was pretty good for me. So, and the first one was campy too. So it's kind of I like the tone that Ant-Man has.
It's a lot more of a improv kind of style, which complements an actor like Paul Rudd, who does a lot of that kind of comedy in a lot of his movies. But he returns as Scott Lang. We already saw a lot of the promotional material for this, and again, I think I was even quoted on saying on the podcast, like, how are they going to get us to even care about this film, considering what happened at the end of Infinity War? And I think we should go, and it kind of goes without saying, but I mean, we kind of have to say that this will be a spoiler for spoilers throughout this podcast.
So jump ship now.
For probably both.
But stay on anyway, whatever.
For probably both Infinity War and Ant-Man and the Wasp. But yeah, with what happened with the end and basically half of reality or humanity or whatever.
And the movie does take place present day.
Yes. A lot of us were confused about that as well because even Infinity War takes place some time after we last saw a lot of those characters, which was Civil War. So they've been playing around with time a lot. Black Panther also takes place sometime before Infinity War, but obviously between both Civil and Infinity. But yeah, it was like, why this? Why this film? Do you think after watching this film, it still was wise to place it where it's at?
I see why they did it.
You see why?
But yeah, I think it was wise. Now that I say that, some of the stuff needed to be explained more.
Yeah.
More of the scientific facts, as you will, if you will.
Yeah.
Like the quantum realm and stuff like that. So it's kind of cool that they left it for last.
I wonder if if they were adamant about keeping it after Infinity War, then I'm glad it came out so quickly after Infinity War, because I think if it would have waited for longer, we would have been like waiting for more answers, hoping more answers would have been in it, and then we kind of would have been upset.
Right.
So I'm glad they did that. What's weird is I'm getting the feeling that they wanted this to kind of feel like Thor Ragnarok did, where it was the levity and the laughs before everything went, where it goes.
Right.
With Infinity War and stuff. And considering we just saw Infinity War, that was the last MCU movie. This would then, like, if you were watching some kind of big binge marathon, this would then be like,
the cool down.
Exactly, the cool down to all of this. But because of us and the being in the clique and loving all these comic book media, this is not the last comic book movie we saw. And so it feels weird that this was the cooldown, because to me, unironically, it was Deadpool.
Right.
Right? We had just seen Infinity War, and 2 weeks later, we got Deadpool, and it was kind of like, oh, okay, woof. We kind of get to tone down a little bit. We kind of get to cool off. But that's no fault of Marvel's, right?
But main plot wise.
Yeah, but like you said, if we were just watching MCU stuff,
Yeah.
then this
the cool down movie.
this definitely serves as the cool down. We had a lot of questions going in about this because we only had a sentence or two referencing where Ant-Man was in just the general timeline of things, and by the time the Avengers get to Wakanda, it's explained that Ant-Man is on house arrest, and we find out that through this film that Ant-Man is on house arrest because of breaking the Sokovia Accords.
Civil War.
Because of Civil War, for breaking the Sokovia Accords, for turning into giants,
throwing down in the airport,
because he used the tech. Hank Pym and Hope are also like on the run from the FBI. So that's kind of like the beginning of how this all sets up. But the movie actually starts off with a little bit of the backstory of seeing Janet, because the first time we saw Janet was in Ant-Man 1, but it was only in the suit.
Yeah.
So you never really get to see the actress, Michelle Pfeiffer in this case. Using the good old de-aging technology that we saw in Civil War and also in Ant-Man when they made Michael Douglas look like a younger Hank Pym. And just like that, you see them saying goodbye to their child the same way in
I got flashbacks.
Civil War.
I was like, oh,
that they're saying goodbye to Tony.
I've been down this road.
And they're getting like good at this thing, right? Where they're going to show you a little bit like, that one of these people is off to their doom, or in some case both. But you're going to see them say goodbye to their child for the last time. And so you have Janet set up this relationship with Hope of calling her Jelly Bean. And we get just basically a narration backstory from Hank Pym to his daughter, saying, we tried to stop this bomb. The only way to stop it was to go and shrink in between the molecules. Go subatomic. And we got this story in Ant-Man 1. We're just trying to catch people up as to where Janet is, because the majority of this movie, it's about finding and reuniting Janet with her family. So we go in, and it's explained to the daughter that, she's stuck in the quantum realm. But at the end of Ant-Man 1, Scott was able to escape the quantum realm.
Come back.
Like, on his first try. Like, everyone was all like, he can't do it. This is crazy. You can never do it. But that's kind of a superhero thing, right? They'll say something like that. Like, no one's ever. And
it's not possible.
But I have to try. That's the Barry Allen right there. So, Scott Lang, in going down into the quantum realm and escaping, has given Hank Pym hope that they could find Janet in the quantum realm, and that basically sets off the beginning of this movie. We get basically what the rest of the plot is, and that is we need to find the original Wasp, Janet Van Dyne. But we go to the main protagonist. We see Cassie, a little older, Cassie Lang and Scott, her daddy. Scott and Cassie, I guess just on a weekend. Right? Scott has her for the weekend or something like that.
Because he can't superhero in the house.
He can't leave the house, so he's created an entire ant theme park inside the house. It's been years since Civil War, and we are told that he is only on house arrest for 3 more days. So this is like the final stretch. And like I said, because he's probably done everything you could possibly do in that house, hide and go seek and tag and all that kind of stuff, board games and charades. He's like, screw it, I'm just gonna build an entire ant cardboard.
And he was practicing magic, which he got good of.
Yes, and he's learned some good magic. But how do you feel about the relationship, and especially how it's established here, where they're playing this kind of like underground cardboard maze with the ants?
This got time on his hands. They said his house arrest was gonna last for two years.
I believe so.
And he had 3 years probation. So if I'm stuck in the house, dude, I'm getting busy. I'm getting creative.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a big slide in the house.
No, yeah, definitely. I did like he did get creative though. That was an elaborate cardboard maze that he created, but it also goes to show you the lengths that Scott would go. Knowing that he can only stay in the house with his daughter, what lengths he'll go to entertain her, and that's where we get the beautiful reveal of a gift that Cassie once gave her father, which is a trophy that declares that he is the world's greatest grandma, which comes back later on, which is funny because she says it was the only one that was there, and throughout the entire scene, we still get that feeling that Cassie's not like normal little girls, right? Because in the first one, remember she gets that weird teddy bear, and they're like, "Oh my god, you gotta get rid of that." And she's like, "No, I love it." And then at several points in this, she's confronted by those huge ants, doesn't care. So when she sees her father on the news, she just
I
smiles.
feel like she gets it.
Yeah, and this could also be proof pointing towards her eventual future in the MCU, because Cassie Lang eventually becomes Stature or Stinger, depending on the timeline. She becomes her own superhero, who has the abilities of Ant-Man. So at various points when she's in this film, I think that she's in there to set up exactly that.
You think so?
She's there to say the things that will then come back around. You'll be like, oh, that's pretty cool.
I want to help people, like my dad.
Exactly. But because they're doing this whole crazy inside the house circus act, they end up doing like this last bit where they slide down the steps through a cardboard big cardboard slide, bust through the neighboring fence, and because his bracelet is just outside, the entire FBI shows up. Where
you going, man?
Just to find out where Scott's going, and he wasn't even going anywhere.
Man?
Which I think also is there to set up early on how serious this house arrest situation is. He did commit a major. I mean, what happened at that airport was crazy. Explosions, millions of dollars worth of damage, breaking all sorts of laws, and so it is serious that he's in this situation. And when his daughter doesn't seem to really understand the severity of the situation, it's broken down to, well, rules exist, just like in school, you're not allowed to draw on the walls. Well, your dad drew on the walls with Captain America, which I thought was one of the best lines in this film. And then it gets explained that, Hank and Hope are wanted because they're connected to the technology, and that also Scott hasn't spoken to them in a while because they hate him. How do you feel about that whole fallout of Civil War?
I'd kind of be upset too. I mean, think of it. He went to Germany. Granted, he didn't want to go help Cap, but he did go to Germany. Yeah. He did go with his suit, so he got in trouble. Everybody knew that it wasn't his suit. Yeah, that it was Pim Tech.
I feel like Hank's a little bit.
He kind of got it. He kind of got it with association. So I can't be mad at that.
But I feel like Hank has shown to be a little bit manipulative too, right? Like Hank's a little bit. I'm not gonna tell you the full reason you're gonna do this, but I need you to do this.
I feel like that's Ant-Man 1. Hank. That's not Ant-Man and the Wasp, Hank.
And that continues here. The whole idea of like Ant-Man, Ant-Manning the other Ant-Man. But they're wanted. And then we get the reintroduction of Scott's ex-wife and the new husband. I think it's hilarious because she doesn't know any of the laws, so she's just like yelling at the FBI that they can't do this and they can't do that, even though she's married to a cop. But we get to see what a day, one of the last days, stuck in this house arrest is for Scott, as he says goodbye to his daughter, where he just does karaoke and plays pretend drums or virtual drums, bowls terribly, stuff like that, and decides he's going to go take a hot tub bath. And when he does so, he has a dream where he's seeing through Janet's eyes, and then he can see like a child. Well, you can see Hope as a child hiding in a cupboard or a wardrobe. What do they call that? The bassinet. Dresser? Tall dresser. One of those things. So
a wardrobe.
Immediately he decides to call Hank, which is smart. But Hank doesn't pick up. Hope abducts him and decides that she's gonna just you said something about my mother, and we've been working this entire time, basically 2 years, on the run, trying to find my mom. We find that they've been living in this like abandoned building. Where there's a huge lab inside, where
a PIM building, if you will,
where they've been using ants to help build, which is kind of smart, right? Because you see things like Bruce and Alfred, and you're like,
ants are workers, man.
They are workers.
Ants are the workers.
But you see things like Bruce Wayne and Alfred, and you're like, who built the cave? So if you have like, if Bruce Wayne was able to get bats to build the cave,
no. Alfred built that with his bare hands. But we digress.
with his strength, I get it. No, I dig it. Yeah. So they have been busy. She basically says like, well, while you just been on house arrest, we've been busy building what's called the quantum tunnel. And what they say is
that was petty. You know I can't go nowhere.
It's true. And the thing is, like,
petty. You know I can't go nowhere. The only place I'm gonna go is sleep.
At several points in this, this ends up being like, Ferris Bueller, where he's running home. To run home before the FBI can get him, and he does it like 3 times in this film. Which makes me think in those 2 years, they could have done stuff. Like, they could have contacted him and all this other kind of stuff, which is why I'm like, why is, there's a lot of anger here that I feel like they could have resolved early. Yeah. Like, they could have went
That's
up to
why I
each
said
other
that
and
was
to
a
each
big
other
jab.
early.
Like, I can't go nowhere. I'm house arrest.
Yeah, that was kind of petty. But, yeah, they're like, okay, well, he confirms through the vision that he saw that he did have some kind of connection. So they didn't have some kind of quantum connection. And there's a joke in this movie, they just put quantum in front of everything. But because of their quantum connection, they believe that they can use the connection and the tunnel to pinpoint exactly where Janet is. And then just...
It's like a quantum GPS.
Yeah, and then just... Yeah, because you could imagine how lost you would be the smaller things get. You can see, you're fitting between the atoms and stuff, so be a nightmare. But like, I guess to the 100th of a 1,000th of a millionth, whatever. Quantum inches. Is that a thing? Quantum inches?
It can be.
Quantum physics. I know quantum physics is a thing. But yeah, they're gonna have a GPS, a quantum GPS. They're gonna use Scott for that, but they need to get a piece of tech because there's always a piece of tech. And that's the same thing for the last one, right? What they need that tech for. Well, they had to take from Shield from the Avengers.
That's when he fought Falcon, right?
Yeah, he's like, oh yeah, we're good, but we still need a piece of tech. So they need a piece of tech. They think, or they know they've been working with it like an illegal
black market tech dealer,
who has his own FBI intel, like inside man. But his name is Sonny Birch. He is an Iron Man villain, but they're borrowing him for Ant-Man. And they've been buying material from him to complete the tunnel. But he kind of like figured it out. He's like, I know you're building some quantum things. And if you guys are back in business, I found out because they were lying about their identities and everything. So he's like, I know who you are. I know what you guys are doing. And if you guys are trying to get back in business and try this again, then I want in. I'll put up money up front, buy the company.
You wanted to buy the whole PIM building.
Because it's the idea, like, if you can create, like, a battery, like if you can build, like, the world's most powerful battery and then make it the size of, a penny and put them all in cell phones so they'll never die or whatever. Like, you can make millions of dollars from quantum mechanics and technology. And so he wants in early, especially with all the superhero stuff that's going on. He wants in. Tries to buy the PIMs, but it doesn't work.
Nope.
So he's like, well, I have very dangerous buyers.
The component.
Yeah, he's like, I have dangerous buyers, and so you're not going to get the component, and I'm still taking your money. So that's what that's going to be. And so Hope Wasp's out. We get a debut of the Wasp in full-fledged suit, glory.
I think I like her suit more than I do his this time around.
I'm wondering about the color change.
For hers?
Yeah, like, are they, like, I've seen them be the same color in the comics or similar, and then I feel like with the flashback showed Janet and Hank as the same
First of all,
color.
we're going to get to the old suits.
no, but the suits in the flashback look fine.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
they look fine. They look like the other one. I don't know about the suit.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. I don't know what
the third act.
how that was.
But, yeah, Anyway,
but it looks retouched even at the end of
it was definitely blue at the end of Ant-Man.
It was blue?
Yeah, they had like blue on the rib sides.
Nice.
So I wonder if they just had to they had to make a return on that.
Mm.
But maybe if they become an official couple, they'll get the team.
But I like hers more than his this time around.
We're almost even setting up a team here, right? Like,
Yeah.
we could
I
set
like
up
the I like the moves. They got some
we
moves.
can end up setting like a and it can end up being like a team Hank or whatever, where it's Hank, Janet, Cassie, throw Cassie in there, Hope, Scott, Ghost, and Goliath. We there. But we'll get to all that in a bit because, yeah, Hope is able to show some moves. They definitely got better at this whole fighting
While shrinking?
stuff
yeah.
and using like the pin particles to make things bigger and smaller. Really, really got better at that. We saw her training him. She basically trained Scott, so she knows a little bit, a thing or two. And if she's been training for the last 2 years, I almost wonder why they haven't just stolen tech for all this time, right? I guess they're just too nice for that because if
we're gonna buy our
you're
illegal
dealing
tech.
with it,
You
well,
understand?
where are they
Instead
getting
of
the money
stealing
from? There's a lot of things going. There's a lot of
I'm
questions.
Hank Pym.
You're on Team Hank Pym.
I got money.
Where you get all that money from? There's a lot going on.
I saved a lot. I'm old.
Well, they still had
and this
the company
all
at the end of
this
that
is
film,
you
didn't
know
they?
I got my paperwork right.
Everything
This
was fine.
Pym stuff.
Everything was fine at the end of that film with that company, wasn't it? Until it blew up.
Yeah.
Then they blow it up. There's a lot of madness. I remember a tank. There's a lot of things going on.
Curse you, Yellow Jacket.
Yes, but Yellow Jacket's gone. But in his place is Sonny Birch, who in the comics did work with Cross Technologies, which that's what Darren Cross, the Yellow Jacket, was trying to work with. But he is kind of just a one-note villain in this.
Yeah.
Sonny Birch. He is. He keeps saying he has mysterious buyers. People have speculated that buyer might be Norman Osborn.
Interesting.
Which is the same speculation that Norman Osborn may have also been the person to purchase the Avengers Tower. Which would be fantastic. I don't know. But I listen. That's a lot.
That's how you get excited.
Yeah, we can't get too excited. Because we got to talk about Baba Yaga.
Baba Yaga.
because even though Wasp is doing well, Ghost shows up.
Yes, for the first
and
time.
We saw Ghost. We saw what looked like Ghost right when they left to go find the tech to complete this whole quantum entanglement thing. But you couldn't really tell. They're doing like this cool thing that I've only ever seen really before in the Flash, kind of, where they're doing the whole phasing through. Yeah, where their molecules are the molecules are going so fast that they're phasing through basically the air. They're phasing through solid matter and the air and all that kind of stuff. So she shows up and she's able to like beat down Janet, and Scott asks Hank for a suit, and Hank has one in the Altoids box, but it's not 100% working. It's like a prototype or something, right?
Because there's always a prototype.
There is always a prototype, and this suit causes him so much problems throughout the rest of this film. Like legit is the reason
I thought that was ill. And the most prototypey suit I've seen in a minute in the MCU. So
Yeah.
I thought that was real dope. It did cause him a lot of problems.
This is legit like the reason
So it was bugging out.
because when he does get super small, super big, they're able to handle things quite quickly. So it makes you think like, oh, they could just it usually
It just
can't.
doesn't last. Yeah,
It's
it's either goes
complicated
too
because
big,
of the
too
whole
small,
situation, yeah.
regular for a little bit.
But yeah, they double team Ghost, but Ghost is able to escape, and she's able to stick her hand through Hank's like throat.
Yeah, I thought he was a goner, dude.
Yeah.
And from past things that I've seen on TV and other movies, I'm like, oh.
Oh, speaking of increases of technology, before I felt like it was a lot more difficult to shrink and get bigger.
Okay.
And then they also had like those red and blue discs, right?
The ones they throw.
Yeah, are they still throwing those?
They
seem to be
like
doing
threw like
things.
4 of them in the movie, to be honest.
But are they the same discs? Are they still the same
they're
red
the same.
and blue
They're
stuff?
the same ones. I seen one in, and I had seen both colors, or I think I seen just the blue.
Because 2 things I guess I didn't really introduce were the fact that the majority of this film also, when they go to find the component or to buy the component, they shrink the entire lab, and the lab kind of has like this handle so they can drag it around like a suitcase. And so a lot of this film takes place in either the shrunken lab or the large lab.
Remote control Pym particles, bro.
Exactly, but that's a new thing.
Wireless.
That seems to be a little new bit of technology that they've been working on, is having this lab shrink and grow at will. This way they can be on the run. And they also have a Hot Wheels set of cars that also plays a lot in this film, that each have their own Pym particle technology built in, where they can press buttons and just grow and shrink at will.
Grow and shrink.
So that's all brand new. This is all stuff that they have been working on, and we get to see a lot of it in play here. But because the lab is so small, it's so easy to be stolen, and Ghost steals it.
Ooh, everybody steals
it. Yeah, I thought Hank was dead when I saw that hand through Hank. I thought it was.
Give up the lab, Hank, or I'll open my fist in your throat.
And you understand that when someone throws into you like that, it gets a little crazy. So it ends up becoming about, well, okay, now how do we find the lab? And it's like, well, we got to find technology that can track it. And so, well, we should go, before we can even do that, we got to be able to hide somewhere, and there's nowhere we can go. So we should just go to, well, Scott's like, I want to go home. Because Scott's like,
you should have just brought them over to your house.
He legit,
if that's the case.
He tried to, remember? He's like, we should just go to my house because that's where I should be right now. And they're like, that's exactly why we can't be there, because it's something. They have a humongous ant taking Scott's place, who's, I'm guessing, wirelessly controlled to do the things that he does normally during all his day.
He's a highly trained ant.
Which include showering, playing the drums, eating Cheerios on the couch. But, yeah, they don't want Scott to go home. And throughout this film, Scott only wants to go home because he is so close.
So close, yeah.
So close at the end of this. And this is literally the ex-con with the one last, score theme. But it makes sense because when push comes to shove and it comes to a place to hide, they go to the ex-con's security, basically, which is a place that is set up by Luis, T.I. and I always forget that Russian guy's name. But they, good old Scott's boys from Ant-Man 1, all the funny ones, have started their own security company, because who can teach you how to keep your stuff more secure than criminals or people who used to burglarize professionally almost, right? So they explain what happened with this woman, and that's where we get the Baba Yaga joke. And they figure out, well, somebody might have some technology that could help us. We should go to Bill Foster. Now, if you've ever read the comics, Bill Foster's name should tickle your fancy, because he was a character known as Goliath, first known as Black Goliath, then regular Goliath, because the original Goliath was also Ant-Man, Hank Pym. Hank Pym, it was also Yellow Jackets.
Goliath,
Relax,
Hank.
Ant-Man. He was also Wasp at one point. So those are 4 different names I could off the bat that Hank Pym was in the comics. So there's a lot of confusion there. But basically, in the comics, Bill Foster, who's played by Lawrence Fishburne here, had the same abilities as Ant-Man. And he goes on to say that they work together. But they catch him doing a lecture where he's talking about how with quantum technology, you're able to be in and out in phase with multiple realities at once.
What a coincidence.
So they just introduced, like, whoops, he walked into
You're just in time.
Please,
have a seat. Have a seat.
And even though they are fully disguised in hats and glasses.
Fully disguised.
Bill Foster sees through it and sees Hank, and it has to end class early because he says all his students are asleep. And I kind of get that. I mean, quantum physics is a little heavy. Ooh, excuse me. But with quantum physics being the future and quantum physics being the way to get Janet, they need technology from Bill Foster. He says he doesn't have it, but goes on this whole thing about being Pym's partner in the past. They start comparing sizes about how big they've grown. And the two men get into an argument, Hank and Bill. And it gets kind of dirty because Bill throws in, like, the only person that ever had a tolerance for you was your wife, and she paid your ultimate price.
What? You said what?
And you already saw what Hank did to old boy in the first film for saying something about his wife in the quantum realm. I think he got his face slammed onto the desk or something. Hank.
Short fuse, Hank. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I think we all know that Hank has a short fuse, but he says that they could find a way to find the lab if they have a piece of technology that's only available in the old tech that Scott said that he threw out. He said he threw out the Ant-Man suit, threw it in the trash.
Mhm.
What do you mean you threw it out? You burn it? Like, can't you just throw something like that in the trash?
Sold it.
You sold it? What's going on here? But he didn't. He put it on the world's greatest grandpa trophy, and he and Hope go to Cassie's school to retrieve it because Cassie decides she wants to bring it for show and tell, which gives us a hilarious scene of Scott and a malfunctioning suit getting so big and then becoming the size of a toddler, and walking around the school. But he's able to find the suit, and they track the lab, and Ghost is basically in there. Now we find out a lot about Ghost in this instance, and I feel like Ghost and Sunny represent this weird bit of like maybe a problem with villains in just movies, not comic book or anything else. But it's the idea that I feel like Sunny is very one note, and then Ghost is like multi-layered. And I feel like you can never find a middle ground, right? Why is it always they don't do anything, and then they are everything, and they have the tragic backstory, they have the sympathetic means.
Why can't a bad guy just want to do bad stuff?
Well, sometimes you get the bad guy who just wants to do bad stuff like Sonny, but it wasn't interesting to me because I didn't understand what his big goal was besides being rich, I guess,
yeah.
which is fine. But that also reminds me of Old Boy from the first film. And then you have Ghost here, which are we supposed to not like her? Like, she's not really doing anything wrong. And at multiple points, we find that her family wasn't. Her family, her dad, Elias Starr, was fired supposedly by Hank, and he tried to continue his research, but his quantum tunnel thing exploded, and it hit her. Everyone else died. But she was the only one to survive, and now her molecules are unstable, and Bill has been helping her this whole time. And then Bill Foster walks out like he's about to kill that Bims and stuff, because Ghost, they find Ghost in the lab, she's doing her weird quantum hibernation healing technique, because she's been in pain because her molecules are unstable, and they try to surprise her, but she basically knocks them out. And when they come to, they are basically legit comic book stuff. They're tied up. She gives the whole origin, and then what I like is that when you think okay, this is exactly what, and then you even got the evil turn where the guy turns the corner.
It's me.
It was me all along. So it's like trope, and then to subvert the trope, right when he gets into his big and the reason why I helped her. The phone starts ringing, and it's ringing, and it's ringing, and then just okay, I'm not trying to throw any shade here, but I have loved ones that once I don't answer enough voice calls, they go into the FaceTime mode. So just like that, after a couple phone calls is not working, you hear the FaceTime ring, and it's just Cassie. Cassie's just trying to FaceTime because she's in an emergency. She can't find her soccer shoes, and so they deal with all that, and meanwhile, Hank decides he's gonna fake a heart attack, and they ask for the Altoids box, and using Scott again, manipulating Scott again, because Scott looks like he's about to cry. He's like, "Help him, please help him." He releases ants, huge ants, into the lab. They're able to escape and take the lab with them, and they go track Janet in the woods. Meanwhile, Sonny Burt shows up at the ex-cons and administers non-truth serum to Luis. I have to say non-truth serum because there's no such thing as truth serum, even though everyone in this film says there's such thing as truth serum. So we go back to Ghost, who finds out that she has weeks to live. Bill's telling her that your body is so unstable. I've been able to help you throughout this, but we don't even know if what you're trying to do, because she's just trying to extract energy from once they pinpoint Janet, she's trying to extract energy from her and the quantum realm, regardless, to heal her or cure her, and it might actually cause Janet to die. She's been stuck in this place for 30 years. Hank thought there was no hope until Scott. Hope thought her mom was dead forever until Ant-Man 1. She had no idea she was even in the quantum realm. So these people have been waiting for this long for this, and Ghost just seems to show up. And even with her kind of selfish reasons, I mean, she's in pain. Um, she seems to just show up at the wrong time. But she decides that she's gonna do it by any means necessary. And Bill says he's not gonna help hurt her.
It was
Pims.
it was either that or and kill Janet theoretically. You know what I mean? So it's like, listen, I don't know about all that, but I'm with the first plan. But
Yeah, but he definitely put his foot there. So it's so odd because right then we are thinking like, oh wow, look, Bill just turned evil, and even Ant-Man says it, right? Like, oh man, I thought you were cool.
I thought you were cool.
But the next time we see him, he's already like, no, I have a line and a code. It's like,
I guess he's
I guess
he's a good bad guy.
Okay, like that was really really quick, but which is fine. I didn't want to really hate Lawrence Fishburne, but you see a truth serum scene, where Luis just says the entire backstory of their friendship,
yep.
and that the jukebox that's in his grandmother's restaurant, and all this stuff. He reveals that the company's going broke, and that one client that he's been talking about, because he's been real serious about this one client the whole film. If he gets that one client, they won't be broke. But he eventually tells Walton Goggins' character Sonny Birch where Scott is. He says they're in the woods, and Ghost pops up, freaks everybody out, and runs out and goes after the Pims. Everybody's scared. Birch calls the FBI. It says go meet them in the woods and arrest them. And when you arrest them, go get that nice little lab for me, because he has somebody at the FBI who's been giving him all sorts of information. That's why I think he works for somebody like Osborn. He has to work for somebody up high if he has these FBI connections. But in probably the best scene of the film, you have Scott, Hope, and Hank, and they finally are able to use the technology to connect with Janet, but then the whole thing shuts down. And it's like, man, what happened? What went wrong? But then all of a sudden, Scott Lang starts to act. I'm gonna get in trouble for this.
All
right?
wiggy.
Am I gonna get in trouble for saying feminine?
No, he was just invaded. His brain
was invaded, and all of a sudden, Paul Rudd is pretending to be Michelle Pfeiffer, aka Janet Van Dyne, is now acting through the body of Scott Lang, because they are able to do this quantum connection, and through this connection, Janet's able to pinpoint herself, and then explain that time and space work differently, but if they don't find her now, they're gonna have to wait 100 years.
All while holding hands and kissing.
Yeah, he's like talking to his daughter and all this kind of stuff. Through Scott, which is hilarious because he must have like just paid attention to Michelle Pfeiffer and watched how she worked, because he got it spot on. It was really, really, really good, really well done. So yeah, he snaps out of it. So now they're even closer than ever. Now they have the exact coordinates of the mom.
Mm-hmm.
They have the quantum tunnel. They're hiding in the woods. The only thing is, Luis calls and says the cops are coming, and everybody's coming because Birch just called the cops, and they know that Lang is on the run, and the Pims are on the run, and all that kind of stuff.
And they hit me with the truth serum.
Everyone's pissed at Scott. So Scott says he's gonna go home, and everyone's mad at him. I didn't understand that much. I mean, I kind of got it, right? Mission first, all that stuff, right? Mission first always. But you
y'all dragged me out here.
Was he not? I feel
Are we
like,
done? You guys got the stuff in my head. That's it, right?
How long does he have to pay for what happened in Civil War? Forever. That's gonna work?
As long as they feel petty.
That's petty. And I guess they kind of let him just go, right? Because he says, "Can I get the suit?" And they're like, "Yeah, whatever.
We'll find you.
We'll go get it." It's also that too. It's also the case of, I want to believe it's the case of, listen, we don't have time to sit here and do like, oh my God, you really have to go. It sucks, yada yada. Like, we found her, and it's
we doing this now.
Yeah,
so.
The connection's closing, so we have to do it now. But Cassie, her mom, and her stepdad come to Scott's house looking for the soccer shoes. The FBI show up, and everyone's bugging out because if Scott's not there, it breaks the whole thing. But he is there. The Pims are arrested though in the woods. They're found, and Ghost is able to steal the lab from the FBI guy. So Scott and Cassie sit down and they have a conversation because Scott feels kind of bummed that he left them while they were trying to find Janet. And Cassie explains that, well, maybe he's a little bit too hard on himself because the work's kind of hard because he needs a partner. And he kind of like laughs, and she's like, oh, I thought I was thinking about me. And she's like, don't laugh.
Oh.
And it's such a sweet moment because that actress does a really, really good job of delivering her lines with the innocence of a child, but still with the complexity of understanding that I feel bad that you thought that was funny. You know that? Like,
because I really do want to help.
Yeah, you kind of played me there. So I thought that was really, really cool. And she basically says, like, you're good. If you want Hope to be your partner, Hope could be your partner.
It's fine.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not too sour about that. But we have that heart to heart, and in a scene reminiscent of Ant-Man 1, Scott breaks the Pims out of jail using ant technology. I feel like I'm talking like King of the Hill, propane and propane accessories, and technology. So now they're broken out of jail, and Hank's like, you know what? I'm gonna go save Janet. Like, oh yeah, I've been taking too long. Everything's going crazy.
I'ma do it.
I'ma go.
I'm going
and
in.
I have the best suit to go do it.
No.
And they decided they're gonna split up because Luis is there. He shows up. What's up?
Please take my suit.
And so Luis is there. Hank is gonna go. Hank is gonna go to
the quantum.
To the quantum realm. And Ghost, who had stolen the lab, was in the lab and was about to do the whole connection thing with Janet, but they were sabotaged by ants. Ants bit up all their technology.
All the soldier ants.
Which then I would say begins the third act, where Hank shows up at the lab that has been sabotaged by ants. Ghost runs out to go fight Ant-Man, and while Scott is stalling Ghost, Hank is able to keep Bill Foster at bay with these huge ants, and what's cool is he promises to find the cure because Bill's like, listen, bro, I didn't want to help her, but she's like really dying and stuff. Like, this is serious. And he goes, don't worry, I'll find the cure. And towards the end, you do see them. They're actually factually trying to help Ghost, which is cool because I think Bill even says that earlier on in the film when he's like, Janet's very smart. She can help you. And he's like, oh, I don't care. Ghost was ready to kill Bill Foster because she was in pain. She was constantly in pain, and she really makes it sympathetic for her. But we got Hank saying he's going to keep his promise, and he's going to cure Ghost, and then we get a shot of Hank's suit. Would you like to talk about the suit?
Before we get into the suit, I saw a couple shots of what he rode in.
Yeah.
Wherever the hell that was.
That bubble thing?
Yeah. And it looks very buggy.
Yeah.
You go back to look at it, it looks very buggy.
Yeah.
So it looks dragonfly-ish almost.
Yeah.
From the front. But anyway, Hank Pym, bring that butt over here.
Now, is it because is it like Michael Douglas's physique? Like they didn't want to like tighten it up on him?
It's the suit.
Was he like, I'm not gonna wear any leather? Like I'm not gonna wear any form-fitting clothing, so I'm just gonna put that.
It's like a plastic bag with like hard plastic on it.
It looks like when you run that running garbage bag that you run to lose more weight.
With harder plastic on it.
Terrible. This thing was terrible.
Dude, that suit was
I thought he was
so
gonna
bad.
put it in
his Ant-Man suit looks even better.
Yeah, and he had an
Ant-Man
Ant-Man
suit.
suit.
He had an Ant-Man suit when you go into the flashback.
I thought he was gonna have like the big OG.
Unless that's a quantum suit.
I thought he was gonna have the OG mouth thing with his
man,
regular
that'd
mouth
have been
out.
ill. Yeah,
With his regular mouth out and stuff.
See, that could have been a thing too.
I thought that's what they were gonna go for.
It was
with
a quantum suit.
With the big Pym symbol on the chest.
It's a quantum suit.
That suit was terrible. But yeah, he's gonna go find his wife, right? And so
that lanky quantum. Oh my god! Okay,
the majority of this film, from this point on in the third act, is just going back and forth between Ghost, Ant-Man, Wasp, and Luis, and Sunny Realm, and the Quantum Realm. So stick with us, folks, because I'm gonna try to go back and forth from there. Hank is able to stall Ghost until Scott's able to stall Ghost until Hank is able to go all the way into the Quantum Realm. or shrink small enough so that they can able to then shrink the lab, so he can go in the tunnel. Once he's in the tunnel, we can shrink the lab. So they were able to do that. He's in the tunnel. They shrunk the lab. He's getting smaller and smaller, and it's basically hot potato with the lab at this point. They're shrinking cars, all kinds of stuff. But Hank starts to lose signal, and what's kind of cool is he sees like these weird big, like
Parasites.
parasite things.
Yeah.
These things are real. They're called tardigrades. They're also called water bears, but they're microscopic organisms that supposedly
so he was like
last like the vacuum of space, fire, water, everything.
So
everything.
he was really, really small.
Yeah, they are like the most resilient known species of something, where they can withstand everything. So it's pretty cool that they actually had some science to this. But we're back to the malfunctioning suit. He's trying to fight Ghost and can't seem to get it to work. But Hank is able to reach the quantum realm, even though he lost signal for a bit. And there was like a scary moment where one of those tardigrades was like it was gonna eat him. And then like once he kind of reaches the quantum realm, he starts to faint. And it's in this moment that I start to think like, you're mad old. Like not in an offensive way.
Yeah, but you're a geezer,
this,
bro.
For this mission, like we were talking about what it did to Scott. Like,
I thought
Scott,
I thought something was gonna happen too. I thought Janet was gonna come out by herself. Like, oh crap.
Where is he? He would have popped out and been like, hey, did you send anybody for I got tired of you
like,
waiting
no,
for you guys.
I came back this time.
Yeah, I got tired of waiting for you guys. Where's Hank? But I'm like, but it is also kind of sweet because there are various moments where he's tearing up at the even thought of getting closer to his wife that he hasn't seen in 30 years. But Luis joins the fray. He's giving his own Hot Wheels cars. And then I also get an idea of like the highway scene. Don't kill the messenger. I'm a little over highway scenes. I'm a little over highway.
I see why you was in. I see why you was.
I'm a little over highway.
Yeah, all right.
Give me more hallway fights. Give me more warehouse scenes like Batman. I'm a little tired of the Marvel highway scene. I just feel like there's nothing really new being done. New stuff is being done. We don't really care because
just the road
everything
chase in
is
general.
moving.
Yeah.
You really don't ever. You could never really tell where they're going or how long they've been driving or how far, which direction things are going in. And it just confuses me. It does. And so when it happens here, it's no different. I liked some of that stuff like Wasp breaking through small, right? Enter big, break. What's it?
The windows of the
go through
car.
small.
Yeah, that was
remember
cool
the
too.
thing when he was doing through the doorway, like go through small, enter big,
something
like that. Go through, shrink again, whatever. Dip, dodge, dodgeball. But we got a bunch of the malfunctioning suit stuff also, which also reminds me like this could be ended much sooner if this worked because he would have just turned into Giant Man, picked up the car, shook it, so everything fell out, grabbed the lab, and it would have been wrapped. But it keeps malfunctioning. They're able to escape. Sonny Burch is able to escape to the ferry. We get a cool scene of Ant-Man trying to summon ants that are all eaten by seagulls, including Antonio Banderas, which was able to get him quite close. But it caused him to fall into the water, and he rises as Giant Man. Probably the biggest he's ever been, right?
Yep, I'd say so. Yep, definitely.
So Hank finds Janet, who's evolved. She seems to have grown older. She has like this kind of like badass apocalyptic quantum realm
I've been in the quantum realm for 30 years.
30 years, and I haven't had to eat. Things work differently.
I know it all around over here.
I'm not the same person you knew. Yada yada yada. She's probably a Skrull. So Ant-Man faints because he's too big. He's able to get the thing, but he faints. He's too big, and he faints in the water. I thought it was pretty cool, that effect of just watching him huge, because they say when you get big and small, that it takes a toll on you. And this guy has done this throughout the movie, especially with the malfunctioning suit. So this should be really taking a toll on him, and we see that it is. So that all seems to line up perfectly. So you have all that take place. Ant-Man, when he faints, Ghost is able to steal the lab, so that kind of sucks. She makes it big because she's still going to do this regardless. Regardless of what's going to happen, she's going to kill Janet to heal herself. It's over. She's in too much pain and she's close to death. So the Pims, right before she's able to do her little thing, the Pims are able to escape because now that she made the the lab big,
They could come
they
back.
can come back. So now that it's big and they can come back, they do come back, and they do like a little nice reunion with Janet. It's very sweet. But Ghost is there, and Ghost is like, I'm in pain.
I need to be fixed.
But then Janet uses her quantum touch
Quantum
abilities
touch.
to heal Ghost, but temporarily, because we hear later on that they were looking for more quantum technology to heal her.
That's why they went back.
So then cops show up, and so everyone leaves because they're all ex-cons at this point, especially a woman who's been presumed dead for the last 30 years. More importantly than everyone being gone or everyone running away is that Scott has to go all the way back home again. So Scott goes all the way back home because there was a sweet scene that when he fell into the water, Wasp did help him. She did go down there. She was able to help him, and they shared a kiss. But I'll talk about those two in a bit. Because he had to end up getting home. He didn't end up getting home before the FBI was there, before he can get caught. We see that Ghost and Bill decide they're going to stick together. Scott is free. He gets free, no longer on house arrest. And
travel the world.
The movie basically ends with "Come On, Get Happy" playing in the background. We see that the Pims have their own beach house set up, and then Miss Hope Van Dyne and Scott are just hanging out with Cassie, looking at a phone, watching something on Netflix through their iPhone or whatever.
Old school, black and white.
But they're doing the whole drive-through
The
thing.
miniature
But they're
drive-through.
miniature. And that was kind of cute. But then also when the bug showed up, I'm like, isn't this incredibly dangerous? You could probably kill your whole family. I don't know how this works. But that comes also straight out of a comic, so I'm gonna let it go. I'm gonna let it pass. But the movie ends with majority of it saying, the song playing through, "Come On, Get Happy," and Cassie saying she wants to be a hero just like her dad, and also agrees that Wasp should be his partner, but she also wants to follow in Daddy's footsteps, and that is the plot of Ant-Man and the Wasp. And except for the joke that I did like that, where the cop is saying that he'll see him again, and he's like, "Well, why would you see me again?"
Why would you do that?
And he's like, "What?" He's like, "I thought you were trying to ask me to go out for dinner or something. Like, do you want to go out for dinner?" I thought that was pretty funny.
That's the long version of why would you ask me that?
Yeah, I thought that was.
Why would you tell me that?
I thought that was pretty funny. But let's go over some of the overarching themes of this film. I think one of the most important ones they say is like never give up on family or people, or never give up on people, right? In general, overall the Pims end up patching things up with Scott and having to eventually trust him and put faith in him that he will help them. So I think you don't give up on that. It was amazing to see Bill not give up on Ghost, help her out through all her stuff, because although she was this crazy, like I thought the actress did a tremendous job to show how unhinged being in pain could make you.
That. Yeah, that was real cool.
If you ever had, I feel like how she felt when you work a 12-hour shift after being hung over from the night before.
Right.
You're just so in pain and so irritated at all times that you would do anything to just end it, end the suffering.
Or just be home.
And she just wants to go home. She wants to go into that little chamber and structure her cells and stuff. But not giving up on Ghost, not giving up on Scott, the family not giving up on Scott. This time around we don't get the same like, come on, just be the guy that your daughter wants. Like they trust him now. Scott's ex-wife does. Cassie's giving pep talks. And overall, no one gave up on finding Janet, which is probably going to introduce a whole new set of problems and solutions into the MCU. So I think never giving up on family is a big overarching situation here. We had a little discussion about villains. How do you feel? Should they be, relatable? Should they be just mustache twirling? My favorite villain, I think right now, TV and cinematic, is Reverse Flash. And I don't really feel like he's all that sympathetic.
Right? Nah, hell no. Of course not.
He probably has a sympathetic story in him, but I want to fear the villain.
Right. And you should. I mean, that's
because the villain's supposed to be a human who went too far and crossed the line where they stopped being that human.
Mm-hmm.
But I also can see Marvel not wanting to play with those lines because ultimately a lot of these tales is that everyone's redeemable. You know, Joker's whole thing is being irredeemable, right? That's like his whole thing. So I feel like when you play around with those layers too much, you end up getting a situation like Sonny Birch where there's nothing to him.
Mm-hmm.
We know nothing about him. There's nothing to him. Or Ghost, where we know everything about her, and she could be a hero in Infinity War, or Infinity War 2 or something like that. And there's really nothing we can say about that. So, how do you like your villains?
I mean, I like my villains bad, but I want to know why they're gonna be bad. But I don't want to feel sorry for them. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I want to be afraid of them.
You wouldn't mind understanding, but understanding
but
doesn't always mean sympathy.
Exactly.
Relatability, aside.
I guess old school. I guess I like to be afraid of my villains. You know.
Yeah.
So.
I dig that. When Infinity War ended, there was a lot of talks about one word: stakes. There was a lot of talk about what the stakes were going to be if things were reversed or yada yada, and everyone's dead. But I'm not here to talk about that. We'll talk about that when we find out what happens at the end of how they tie all that up. How do you feel about stakes in comparison to Infinity War, where they're really just trying to save this one person in comparison to when we saw an entire film of them trying to save the universe? And do you think that helps or hurts the film?
I mean, given we had the Battle of New York going on at the Battle of New York 2,
Yes.
aka Infinity War at the time that's going on, at the same time as that, because if you notice, the Ant-Man
how much time do you think took place between
Ant-Man took place on the West Coast?
But how much time do you think took place between the end of this film and the post-credit scene?
No time at all. Like maybe like a day.
Really?
Probably.
I think
that happened either the next day or the day of.
I really think it could be a couple of months. I really think it could be because I think that's the only. Well, we got to talk about the post-credit scene. So, in the post-credit scene, they have a miniature version of this quantum tunnel technology in the back of a van, and they're using it to have Scott go in it to get particles to help heal Ghost. In it, when before he goes in it, Janet mentions, "Oh, by the way, don't get trapped in any time vortexes because we might not be able to get you out." And when he goes in, they give him a countdown to come back out, but before they can get to 0, the voice is cut out, and we find out that they have been disappeared, turned to ash or whatever, because of the snapping, because of snapping his fingers with the Infinity Gauntlet, and 50% of existence disappearing. So the only thing I can believe is at the end of this movie happens. He's free to go do whatever he wants to do, because to me, he has to be him doing this quantum realm thing with the back of the van has to be like on a Sunday. And this is a regular day for him.
Right.
They didn't just deal with all this stress. He's like, I'm gonna meet you tomorrow at 10. And we're gonna.
I don't say that only because they do say they were trying to fix Ghost.
Yeah, but they did. Janet touches Ghost, and
yeah, but I guess they try to do it right after, so that
like,
way they could be ready. So that way Janet ain't have to like keep on.
That's what I'm wondering. Like, is it something like where she's a battery and she has to keep powering Ghost with quantum energy?
So instead of doing that, they just send Scott to go retrieve some of that energy.
Right.
Probably like the day after or 6 hours after all of that.
Nah. Because they also gotta find her because she done dip with Bill.
Yeah.
You know.
True.
Because the whole reason why I did do the Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon analogy is because they have to be so relaxed that they're not worrying about the news.
Right.
Because if they were turning on the news, they would see that Tony Stark is gone and there's a ship.
So then, hell yeah, it's got to be. It's got to be the day of. Then, if they only worried about what they got going on, it's got to be all of that. It's got to be happening the day of.
But I feel like the only time you're worrying about what's going on is when you're relaxed.
Because yeah, but think of it this way: you have all of that. You have all of that going on too, but at the same time, you have them fighting in Wakanda and in New York.
Yeah, and don't forget.
And to be honest, they kind of do have a lot going on, running from the cops and FBI and stuff like that.
And I don't really know that they've said that the Pims are like okay now, right? Like,
not really.
Are they fine from the cops?
Well, we don't know because everybody's dead.
And Hank seems to have a small house on deck that can make bigger.
Yep.
And has like full running plumbing. And Wi-Fi
Pim
and
particles, B.
Pim particles. Hey,
everything.
Pim particles and vibranium. Put them together. Pym particles are vibranium, and y'all could do anything. B. So stakes were kind of little, but ironically, it's fitting that the stakes would be smaller
Mm-hmm.
in the Ant-Man movie. We saw, like I said, saw a lot of new tech. Did you have any problems with the new tech? I see people having
No,
problems
I
with
love,
the
I love
cars
I love
shrinking.
the Pym tech. I just will always love the creativity that they use. It was nice to see those Hot Wheels in the whole row in the case.
Actually, but I did feel like a lot of people have problems with the cars shrinking and growing because of the emphasis put on the suit in the first film of like you need the suit. The suit's gonna take a lot out of you.
True, true, and then
Shrinking is hard, and
shrinking the car with people in it.
yeah.
Yeah, I know. I see what you're saying.
But it didn't really bother me. It
Nah, it
probably
didn't really
should have
bother
bothered
me.
me.
Yeah, it should have, but I guess I got it.
I dig it.
Whatever. Let's shrink, guys. I don't need no damn suit.
Well, I dig it. I definitely dig it. Janet's new powers. What do you think's going on with that?
I don't know. She's got, I don't know, man. Quantum energy.
Huh. It could be anything. I just hope it's not one of those things that just answers everything.
Right. She turns out to be Captain Marvel.
Yeah, right. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
But that quantum entanglement thing was kind of cool. I wonder if they could.
We're gonna be back to that. I feel that's what I feel. We'll be back. We'll be back with that something Infinity 4.
Now here's the thing, people. I love you all. I wanted to do a lot more homework on what this time vortex, quantum mechanics, and what this could possibly mean and speculate. But to tell you the truth, I think I'll just get so way off into the weeds of the science of it, where they could literally just be like,
it's gonna be
poof,
anything. Yeah, that's why I don't look into it.
It's just like this. But the alternate
time
reality,
and space is super convenient.
The time space thing doesn't interest me more than the alternate reality thing.
Yeah, me too. Straight
up.
If
they play multiverse,
I see one double, bro. I'm going
if
bananas.
they play multiverse, like if they go to the fight in New York, but there's no Hulk or whatever, because they shot him years ago, whatever, the army got to him or something like that. Like if they start doing multiverse and then they start playing with a multiverse that has mutants, a multiverse that we broke into something. I think that would be amazing. I think that would be pretty cool. But I'm more open to the idea of realities in time. But I'm up for anything really.
Yeah, but keep in mind they say multiverse at the least.
I'm up for time if it's gonna be like the time honored tradition of like comic book annuals sometimes or anniversary issues in which the movie's just gonna be a love letter to the entire history of what's going on. I have absolutely no problem with that because I care that much about the characters. I know a lot of people wouldn't like it on the strength of it being a solo film, but I mean, Marvel has spent the last 10 years turning comic book readers into movie fans and movie fans into comic book fans. So you're watching comic books right now. You're watching an episodic drama take place over 10 years with 20 films. And I'm so glad to have been a part of all of it. Me and you were both wearing our More Than a Fan t-shirts that have every single Marvel movie written on the back. And I've seen them all at this point a million times. Well, this one only twice, but hope to see it a million times more over. I want to end on the chemistry factor. I thought there was a bit of a lacking chemistry between the leads.
Well, I kind of feel that way too, but I also feel that way because we kind of knew they were kind of gonna end up kind of together.
Yeah.
So it was like something we saw coming, but we kind of put to the side. So that way, when it got here, I guess we could bring it front and center. You know what I mean?
If you've seen Arrow, it kind of reminds me of like the Laurel Ollie stuff.
Like it's
where
here.
It's like, you know that those characters canonically, the characters, are going to get together. So you're just waiting for the trajectory to get there. In the first movie, I felt like they just kissed. Right? And then she found out she was going to get a suit. And then she broke her trust by stealing her father's technology. And then for 2 years, there was no explanation about it. And I know that if someone ever harms you or lies to you or something like that, and you wait 2 years, the person who's been harmed, is going to spend those 2 years coming up with some kind of logic as to what kind of garbage person you are so that you could do this. And so when she sees him and he gives her the explanation, off the rip after that, it's still flirting, smiles, kisses. And I kind of felt like maybe it was...
Too fast, moving too fast.
Or no, I could give her the excuse that she wanted to forgive him and assume that he wasn't just doing... something to be selfish.
Okay.
And pair that also with the fact that she just found out that the one person that she doesn't want to talk to is the only way she's gonna get back the mother that she lost for 30 years. So maybe it's a combination of those. But I thought Evangeline Lilly as Hope did way better in this film than the first film. I thought she was
Yeah,
way
I
more
think so too. I
likable.
feel like she found her niche more.
I felt like she was way more likable. I felt like in the first film I was trying to figure out whether or not she was gonna turn. Like she was so kind of weird and business-like that I was trying to figure out whether or not she was gonna turn, and she never really did. Where in this one she was cool through and through. I like the hair more this time. I don't know if that makes me superficial, but I do like the look more. I just wish that they would have done more for these two because just like Sue and
a little bit for the romance.
Yeah, because just like Sue and Mr. Fantastic, those relationships a lot of the time are just shown. They're already together.
Yeah.
And so you buy it off the strength of them just being together. And if you're not going to put them straight off together, you got to build it to the point that when they are together, you're like, oh, yay, those two, they're killing it. No problem with either of the actors. I just think that they rely too much on our knowledge of the fact that they already get together. I also wanted to bring up the fact they did play up Come On, Get Happy throughout the entirety of the film to then probably drop the nail of, don't forget, everyone's affected by this snap. Everyone's affected by the events of Infinity War.
Don't be happy for too long.
You thought you were in a little quantum realm of happiness, all by yourself, where time and reality was different. But no, the snap still happens. Janet, I wonder if Janet's stuck in I wonder if they're all stuck in the quantum realm or some kind of realm where Janet can help everybody else get out or something else like that. Also kind of weird. She didn't need any kind of other technology to live. She didn't have to eat. Nope. I would have thought she would have been more crazy, like the guy in Jumanji who got stuck in Jumanji for 30 years. Remember that? And he came out like a caveman, and he was all because she has been killing those tardigrade things to eat or whatever. Or, why does she have a weapon if she's not eating? Maybe she's like a quantum queen. She has like a quantum army. She didn't want to tell Hank. She's like, as soon as I get out of here, I'm leaving. Like Morty did when he was stuck in that thing. He's like, I'm abandoning my people as soon as I get a chance to get out of here.
We do throw quantum in front of everything.
That was another joke in here. Quantum in front of everything. What was your favorite jokes in here? They threw a lot of them. The majority of them stuck.
Anything, Luis.
A lot of physical comedy with the shrinking and Homeboy being shorter than usual. And Luis killing it as always with his storytelling. And just the way he delivers his lines, so quick and adding words like beloved and stuff like that. The beloved commercial, what's up? I thought that was pretty funny when he thinks that's Scott. The world's greatest grandma thing I thought was amazing. I think Cassie Lang, like I said again, is a great addition. And there might be hints that she might be, there might be a time jump for the Cassie Lang character in the future. If that's true, I also know that Cassie Lang was a part of a group called the New Avengers, which could also be one of the movies slated to come out in MCU's Phase 4, when you got Cassie Lang. And I know another member of the New Avengers is Kate Bishop. If Kate Bishop sounds familiar, it's because she becomes the second version of the person that I thought was going to show up in this film. Where is Hawkeye? Where's Hawkeye?
Training.
Clint.
He's on house arrest too.
Clint.
He's on house arrest.
He is on house arrest, but we fully don't know where Hawkeye is.
Nope. He gonna pop up still. He gonna pop up.
Nothing.
We don't know when or where, but he'll pop up. Maybe in Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel happens in the
So 80s. Here's the thing. So I'm gonna assume that he's training Kate Bishop right now. That's my humongous speculation. That
Training the replacement Archer, bro.
I think he's gonna be Ronin. I think we're gonna see him as that Ronin thing because he's gonna have another Hawkeye, and because they think there's another Hawkeye out there, they obviously it's not him. So
replacement Archer.
So I think
I can get into that.
You get Kate Bishop in there as Hawkeye. You get Cassie Lang in there as Ant-Man. Maybe Shuri in there as Black Panther. Man,
woo, stop it right now. Just call us.
Oh my God, you got Ironheart in there. Yo, we could kill it. You can make this. You can do what you got to do. We got a little bit. Yeah, it's getting a little bit too crazy in the major issue studios. But wow. Yeah, that's fun.
You see what you just did
Well,
to yourself?
it's fun to think about the future because the only things that are slated are sequels, right? We know we're
Yeah.
getting a Black Panther 2. We know we're getting a Spider-Man Homecoming 2, supposedly called Far From Home. We know we're getting a Guardians 3. We know we're getting an Avengers 4, and we know we're getting a Captain Marvel, but everything else seems to be in the dark. So I cannot wait till Marvel announces, hopefully soon, what the next slate of movies are going to be. But I can see them holding off until Avengers 4 because I can see Avengers 4 being the, be all and end all for those
And then we can
three
start promoting
phases.
the movies and stuff afterwards because everybody's dead.
Everybody's dead, B. Everybody's dead. Come on, get happy. But the ant is still alive, so I want to believe that was a way of saying that there's also a bunch of people still alive.
Mhm.
Not everybody's gone, and it'll be
Mhm.
interesting to see who is still alive and who's still gone, and what they think about their new ant overlords that are that are immune to the snap. It'd be funny if ants are the only things immune to the snap, and they have taken over the world. And you got Planet of the Ants. Write it down, Marvel. Get it done. Planet of the Ants. I think that's all I got. You got anything else on this film?
We got them all, baby.
We got them all. Now it's time to say goodbye, man. Say goodbye to Marvel until next year. Wow. Well, we got Into the Spider-Verse coming up, and I've been reading a ton.
Christmas.
I've been reading a ton of Spider-Man comics, bro. So much Spider-Man comics.
happy
Can't wait
for
to
you.
talk about all that stuff on here. Maybe even cover some Spider-Verse on here. But the next movie that we'll be covering will be Teen Titans Go to the Movies, which will literally be the like turn off your brain, just enjoy it for the sake of it. Comic book movie. You excited about that?
Yes, because we will go to the movies
Yes, this is true.
to see this.
And also we got San Diego Comic-Con's coming up, so there's gonna be some brand new trailers with that.
Ooh.
Probably Shazam and Aquaman. So that is going to be exciting. But the Marvel train stops here. Go see Ant-Man and the Wasp. Obviously, you're listening to this, you've already seen it, but go see it again. Why not? Why not? People are already saying it's underperforming. I don't know what they thought it was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I feel like they kind of handcuffed themselves given the situation that they're in. But I only believe that they handcuffed themselves because they knew that they had to handcuff themselves. And with the windfall of cash that Captain Marvel and Avengers 4 seems to be, I think they'll be doing just fine. Especially with Fox now.
We be alright.
We're about to get the MCU. Everything's about to go crazy. Last but not least, I wanted to say we lost Steve Ditko this week.
Yeah.
Spider-Man's
Steve
dead.
Ditko, co-creator of Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, worked on The Question, stuff like that. Who ends up being a inspiration for guys like Rorschach and stuff, even Batman in some cases. Great creator, a little bit of a recluse, like he liked to keep to himself. So he died alone, which left many fans sad, but he did leave so many great creations behind that continue to make us feel better about our very mundane lives and let us do stuff like this podcast where we just talk about the latest and greatest things to come to comic books and comic book media. So thank you, Steve. But if you want to hear more stuff like this, more movie, TV, and comic book reviews about the latest and greatest things to come to comic books and comic book media, all you have to do is keep listening to the Major Issues podcast by downloading the Podbean app or any kind of podcast app. To tell you the truth, if you have an iPhone, you already have a podcast app, and all you have to do is search Major Issues in your podcast app to find this very podcast and all of our illustrious library, up to 30 plus episodes at this point, talking about all things. I'm talking about movies, TV. We're talking about like loves in comics. We had a conversation about that. Just a conversation about the Superman character when we reviewed Superman 1000. And I think soon we're going to talk about the Batman wedding, which is going to be quite the that's going to be fun.
Spectacle.
Yeah, that's going to be quite the spectacle. But yeah, Major Issues. Google Major Issues Podcast, and it will lead you right to us. We are wherever podcasts are found: Podbean, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, iTunes, everywhere. Just look for us. Major Issues Podcast. And Major Issues is brought to you by ComicBook Clique, which you can find at facebook.com/ComicBookClique, Instagram at ComicBookClique, and use the hashtag ComicBookClique to talk about all the newest, hottest, latest, and greatest things to come to comic books and comic book media. Woo! Can't wait for New York Comic Con. Can't wait for San Diego Comic Con. We got a bunch of movies on deck. Marvel, we will see you soon, Marvel. But I feel like people are going to be talking about the effects of the movie for quite some time, because this is going to be the one that said how we beat the almighty Thanos, and hopefully it's giving us the tools to go forward and save our heroes.
The quantum tools.
The quantum tools. But that's going to be the end of this. My name is George Serrano, a.k.a. The Don.
I am your Cloudus Maximus.
And this has been the Ant-Man and the Wasp full recap and a review. And whether you're using Pimtech, whether you have unstable molecules, whether you're trapped in the quantum realm, or whether you're really not under truth serum, remember that we are the Clique, and you, yes you, are worth.